Scientists baffled. The most common headline lately. Scientists confused. Everyone scratching their heads with all their brains, their papers, their doctorates and everything. Can't seem to figure things out because they don't read the Bible. Scientists baffled as interstellar visitor appears to reverse thrust before vanishing behind the sun. And then as it's coming out behind the sun, it seems to have grown again. Now it's billions and billions of tons big. This thing's just getting more and more interesting. They're putting together whole groups that are trying to figure this out and study it and everything as November comes closer. Interesting. But I think there was a story that maybe they received a transmission from 3i Atlas as it came around the sun, and they could finally decipher it, putting all of our best experts together to read through this and understand the message. And the message was this: we have been trying to reach you about your extended warranty. No, I'm kidding. That's just me. That didn't happen. But at this stage of the game, and with NASA and all these people making these comments, it would not surprise me. Moving along swiftly. The FDA confirms the highest risk level for recall of 6.7 million eggs. The recall is Class 1, the most severe under the agency's rules, meaning it is dangerous or defective and could cause serious injury or death. This announced by Arkansas-based Black Sheep Egg Company earlier this month. The FDA said in the news release updated on October the 20th. So again with the eggs. Again a recall on eggs. Interesting. And the food supply being poisoned and everything else with the train derailments and everything that no one talks about anymore. It's really interesting. The project still goes on. I personally am at that stage and have been for a very long time where I pray over my food. Everything that goes in my mouth I pray over, and that works for me regardless of recalls and everything else. Hundreds of public figures, including Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak, have urged AI superintelligence ban. It's about time, because there seems to be a ban in place on intelligence in mankind, because if I'm looking at what the expert scientists and doctors are saying, there is no great intelligence out there. Over 850 prominent figures, including Steve Wozniak and Virgin Group founder Richard Branson, have signed a petition urging a global pause on developing superintelligence. Too late! The statement on superintelligence released Wednesday warns of existential risks like human extinction, economic collapse, and loss of freedom if pursued without safeguards. Sounds like all the little things you see on that small piece of paper when you get some new pills from the doctor. These are the possible side effects: nausea, bleeding, death, blindness. But it's definitely going to help your headache. Anyway, it continues. AI pioneer Yoshua Bengio emphasized, to safely advance towards superintelligence, we must scientifically determine how to design AI systems that are fundamentally incapable of harming people. Too late! Whether through misalignment or malicious use, we need to make sure the public has a stronger say in decisions that shape our collective future. The WEF, the United Nations, and everyone in the shadow governments of the New World Order say, no, do not agree, do not like this, are following. Billionaire Peter Thiel. Now, if you don't know who he is, he's the guy, the homosexual guy, that did a whole series of talks just a short while ago on the Antichrist, his pet project. He's living in sin and away from God with warped theories and ideas, but he wants to position himself as the expert brain behind who the Antichrist is and how that's going to go down. Interesting, don't you think? Now that same clever boy claims, and this is beyond ridiculous. I couldn't believe it when I saw this news article, because even my cat knows that this is not a possibility. And we have differences when it comes to potential candidates for the Antichrist. Not that we should be looking for the Antichrist, we should be looking for Christ. because he is the one we long for, not the Antichrist. And I've discussed more than 3 times in deep, prolonged videos with all the scriptures and the Greek and everything explaining that we will be removed before he's revealed. And there's a reason for that. If you suddenly have, let's say, 1 billion Christians going, ooh, 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 Antichrist, it's kind of going to mess things up. But if they're all gone, anyway, so we have different opinions. You have people like Macron, Donald Trump, King Charlie Boy, who's barely keeping it together, Putin even, all these people as candidates, Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince, and all of them are up there as potentials, and they all have their points. You know, we put them on grading scales, we tick things off from the Bible, and these are our candidates. But the man who positions himself as the brain behind who the Antichrist is and how that's all going to go down, claims, again, my cat figured this one out more than he could, and my cat's not a billionaire. Greta Thunberg could be the Antichrist. Greta that messed up so badly, she posted a picture of an Israeli hostage and said, look how they're treating the Palestinians. And then when she found out what it was, because they let her know, she deleted the post. That idiocy, he thinks, is the Antichrist. I think the Antichrist is someone that is super intelligent, very, very liked, someone who's really able to position himself in the world in power. Silicon Valley billionaire Peter Thiel, co-founder of PayPal and Palantir, claimed during a private appearance that the Antichrist would soon walk the earth. Tick, yes. Everybody knows this. According to recordings obtained by The Guardian, the investor reportedly cited environmental activist Greta Thunberg as a possible embodiment of this apocalyptic biblical figure. I focus on the most dramatic interpretation, an evil king, a tyrant, or an anti-messiah who appears at the end of times. So who could that be? Let's look at all the candidates. Greta. Greta can't even manage a flotilla to Israel. But you want her to manage the planet. Greta. Really quite sad when people want to make themselves out to be experts and then prove that they're unknown drips under pressure. New Georgetown University president, I reject the church's teachings on homosexuality. The incoming president of Georgetown University said he repudiates the Catholic Church's teachings on homosexuality. He also appeared to criticize the Supreme Court's reversal of Roe versus Wade. The nominally Catholic Jesuit University in Washington, D.C. recently announced its selection of Eduardo Penalver as the new president to start next year. He is currently the president of Seattle University, another Jesuit university. So he's in a presidential role in Catholic universities, publicly speaking against the Catholics. I think they might be dropping the ball here a little bit. President Penalver is an exceptional leader, steeped in the Catholic and Jesuit tradition, who brings a wealth of experience in higher education, a global mindset, a commitment to social justice and academic excellence, and a bold vision for Georgetown's future, the chair of the board stated. We look forward to him joining our community. Did you hear anything about Jesus Christ, the gospel, or the faith, or the Bible in that whole glowing resume that they gave him, even though he openly stands against them and is pushing sin as something good? That's the problem. One of the many, many problems with the Catholic Church and the larger church that's not biblically sound. Church hosts K-pop demon hunters communion ceremony. In a stark example of the church's great falling away, Claremont United Church of Christ hosted a service blending Netflix K-pop demon hunters with Holy Communion, praising the show's dark themes over biblical truth. Reverend Jacob Buchholz, after viewing the film with his transgender nephew, lauded it effusively. So good. The characters, the music, the themes, the message, all incredible. He rejected literal demons, claiming, "I've always been uncomfortable with the way that modern evangelicals talk about demons and the demonic as if they are some sort of literal externalized force walking through the world, causing havoc and tempting people away from God." Because when we imagine demons as real, it allows us to attribute the evil of our world to something outside of ourselves, as if it originates from some sort of non-human source. The congregation partook in communion amidst the film's songs, inverting sacred ritual into pop culture homage. It echoes last year's Taylor Swift-themed service in Germany, where lyrics mocked Christianity and were sung in worship. That's where a lot of the church is right now, and it's because wolves are standing in the pulpit and not shepherds, which is as it would be in the end times. Pray for the congregants to wake up and to be led away from these congregations. This reverend, the minute they made that first statement, he watched the film with his transgender nephew. Already told you he's off the rails because he hasn't worked to help or guide his nephew back to truth. No, he is emboldening him and supporting him in his sin. So he's already lost his path. And then he rejects the idea of actual demons existing, that everything bad is only humans. Yeah, absolutely, a lot of bad is humans. It's the sin nature. But demons are real. I can attest to that. In my years of ministry, I've experienced huge interactions fighting demons in spiritual warfare, like literally seeing them and fighting them and overcoming by the power of Jesus Christ and the blood of the Lamb. They do exist. Are they to be feared? Only if you don't have Christ. Only if you don't rely on the Holy Spirit. Only if you're not wearing the armor of God. It is a spiritual battle. Ephesians 6 verse 12, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places." That is not an imagination, it is a fact. And it is sad that people are being taught it is not true. They're going to find out how true that is really, really quickly. Pentagon deploys bombers and warships to the Caribbean in a major show of force. The United States has ramped up its military presence in the Caribbean under U.S. Southern Command, deploying bombers, warships, marines, and so on. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, announced a new counter-narcotics joint task force, stating it is created to crush cartels and stop the poison and keep America safe. It marks the largest U.S. effort in the region in decades, more than 10,000 troops involved. U.S. B-52H Stratofortress bombers, F-35B fighters, various naval assets. The build-up following 7 strikes on suspected drug boats amidst tensions, and a defense analyst noted, "The posture we haven't seen in the Caribbean since the early 2000s, clearly meant to send a message not just to traffickers, but governments who enable them. The US will act on the ground against drug cartels. President Trump on the boat attacks. Land will be next. We have informed the Senate and Congress about this." Keep your eyes on that. Wars, rumors of wars, nations against nations, kingdoms against kingdoms. Putin's military aircraft are spotted in Lithuanian airspace as he threatens serious and overwhelming response if Russia is attacked with Tomahawk missiles. He gave the warning on Thursday with the threats. The remarks came amidst escalating tensions in the Ukraine conflict and fresh US sanctions on Moscow. Tensions spiked when Russian aircraft went into Lithuanian airspace. 2 military aircraft entered for 18 seconds. Lithuanian president condemned it as a cruel violation of international law. Tensions, stresses, distress of nations. You're living in the last seconds before the end of the age of mankind. Keep looking up, keep spreading the gospel, keep smiling, and keep sharing the reason for the hope that is within us. Or as my new shirt says, I may start talking about Jesus at any moment. Beware. We should live like that, because there isn't a lot of time left. Imagine being talking about Jesus to someone random on the streets, and he goes, "Who's that with you?" And you turn around and there's Jesus. He's come to pick you up. That would be an epic ending to a day. Shalom.